there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
It's an exciting time to be involved in Bitcoin Cash at the moment.
During that whole war of Lightning versus big blocks, like were we the bad guys? Were we the ones that weren't listening?
Fundamentally, we believe in markets, transparency, and tokenization.
Come on, you gotta come stronger than that, you know, like...
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency, going to number one, same as always, each and every day of my life. This is episode number 81, Paytaca and Philippines adoption, featuring Joemar Taganna. Today is Sunday, the 21st of May, 2023. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is doing the producing, and we're starting this episode with a public service announcement. The CashTokens upgrade has gone live. It's been fine, but there has been an immediate swarm of scams trying to steal everyone's Bitcoin Cash by making fake wallets and copies of the web wallet, particularly. So if you go on Google and you just type in CashTokens wallet and you just click a link, well, the chances are about 9 to 1 that you're going to end up on a scam instead of the real thing. So for everybody listening, I've got some links here to real wallets. Okay, you've got https://cashtokens-wallet.app. That's the original web wallet. You've got electroncash.org. You've got paytaca.com. And you've also got Selene, SELENE.cash, which doesn't have cash token support yet, but it is a legit wallet. So those are the 4 that we're going to shout out today for being legit. And just if you're going to experiment with cash tokens and you're trying new wallets, just be very, very, very careful and only use a very, very small amount of money either way. Also, we're not going to be talking about Selene, which is the new wallet that I've released with Callisti this week, even though I'm super excited, but we'll talk about that next week and get onto that. And also Sunrise, which is the new song I released for the upgrade day. So very exciting stuff, but that's all for next time. For this week, we've got Joemar Taganna. He is the CEO of Paytaca and crushing it with spreading adoption in the Philippines. Welcome to the show, Joemar. How did you get into Bitcoin?
Hey, thank you, Jeremy. It's been my dream to be in your podcast, like the premier podcast for Bitcoin Cash.
Welcome, living the dream.
But yeah, glad to be here. How did I get into Bitcoin Cash? That's a great question. I've read the Bitcoin white paper in 2010, 11, around that time. But I was busy with I was doing my doctoral studies that time. I was living in Belgium, by the way. I lived there for 5 years. So wow. I was busy with all this stuff. And I just, the farthest I could go was to share it to my colleagues. Like, look at this. It's going to be like a revolutionary thing. And it got my attention, but I was so busy at that time. And the next thing I did something related to crypto was I was doing trading. I was trading BTC back then, 2013, around that time. But it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was the time that the Silk Road was discovered, the guy, and it was headline all over. And so I was afraid that I'll be associated with some criminal activity. It's the worst thing you can that can happen. You know, I'm a foreigner in the country. So I didn't get the chance to really work on Bitcoin Cash after a few years later, 2019. That's when I was first, my first involvement was with SpiCe token. So this guy who created the token, like a few weeks or a few months later, approached me to help him build the tipping bot. And there used to be a SpiCe feed website. And that's how I got into Bitcoin Cash. And so that was already after the split. And I get to compare look back at the history because I wasn't involved. I wasn't there in the action. So I look back, and it was a conscious decision on my part, not just about being involved in the project. I know that I'm on the right side of history here. And after I helped build SpiceBot, I like managed to find my way how to contribute more to Bitcoin Cash until now,
Yes.
until I got the idea for Paytaca. Yeah.
All right, we'll get into that in a second, but I've got a couple of questions first. So what were you studying in your doctoral studies?
I was studying biotech and bioengineering sciences. So it's was doing specifically comparative genomics. So we were I'm a biologist, but my job there was like to be the computer science guy. Like they throw the sequences to me and do some programming with it because you cannot manually inspect all these like gigabytes of DNA data. It's all done through scripting, and I had to learn programming at that time in order to survive my PhD. So, and I thank for that opportunity because programming is a very transferable skill. So in the Philippines, when I came back in 2015, I started what used to be intended to be a bioinformatics company, but there's no market or it's difficult to penetrate the market from where I am. So we shifted into more general programming stuff. But my background is really I'm trained as a research scientist specializing in biotech and bioengineering science.
Yeah, no, it's just fascinating to me. That's something that I think has increasingly changed in the world, right? There was probably a time, a couple decades ago where what you studied was much more than what the progress your life tended to take. But nowadays it's so common. It's not even like remarkable really that people start in one thing and then they go to here and then they go to there and then they end up, we just live in such a diverse, advanced economy really that people end up with this kind of weird blend of skills that gets them into a job that, very few other people would be kind of qualified for, right? So that's fascinating to hear that. And then when you said about 2013 and the Silk Road shutting down and all that kind of thing, it made me think about, I think people don't really understand, or it's hard to appreciate in hindsight what it was like at that time in terms of the sort of what do you call it? Not really the backdrop, but the sentiment in the air. Like, so what you're saying about, you saw that it was a bit associated with criminal activity and you didn't really want to be too involved. I often think to myself, like, now I'm here doing this podcast and it's been really great. I think, why didn't I just do this podcast in 2013? Why didn't I just start it up then? But the fact of the matter is that I wouldn't have done that, and I didn't do that because at the time it was the same as you. I was thinking like, look, you gotta stay a bit under the radar with this. Like, I was telling a lot of people in, my life, or, I was promoting it and getting really excited about it. But at the same time, I was only posting on Reddit anonymously. I wasn't coming out, I'm Jeremy and this is where I am and this is what I'm doing. And nobody knew really if the government was going to come in and shut it down, if it was going to become this big illegal thing, like what was going to be on the tax front, all of that stuff. So in hindsight, I think that will be a little bit lost, or like anything, being early, you're sort of taking a risk on something. But then in hindsight, once it works out, it's easy to sort of backwards rationalize like, it would have all been fine. But for instance, like Vitalik Buterin, with his $1 billion that he made from Ethereum, people think like, he got in there early and he worked hard. Yeah, that's true. But he honestly took a titanic risk that he could have been the first one to go to jail with the SEC if they'd been a little faster on the uptake there. I don't know. It would be quite interesting to ask him actually in hindsight whether he was really aware of that, or he wasn't aware, or he just didn't care. I don't know what it's like, but it's not unusual to hear that kind of story from people. Did any of your colleagues and stuff that you talked to about it, did they get into it as a result of your recommendations?
I remember I helped two, three, of my colleagues to open to create the Bitcoin.com. No, sorry, the blockchain.com, was it?
.info.
Blockchain.info wallet. That info
Yes.
wallet. Yeah. So I still have that wallet. I have my early history of trading there, and when I asked my friend like years later, do you still remember your blockchain info wallet? No, they already uninstalled it. So they forgot their seed phrase. Too bad. But at that time, actually, the danger was becoming real for me because I was trading in that site called BTC-e.
So was
I was buying Bitcoin from there and then selling it somewhere, selling it to some of my colleagues, part of it. And then I was using a credit card issued by a UK bank. And then suddenly, after like a few transactions, my card was closed, and I started to panic because at that time, the Silk Road was everywhere, and I'm on work visa, so I cannot compromise my future with this. So I just sold everything, and and as much as because I know that like the criminal use of Bitcoin is just like a side effect. It's not what Bitcoin is. So Bitcoin is greater than that. So although I believe that, I cannot compromise my situation. So I stopped the trading.
And then BTC-e then later got shut down by the US feds. And one day I went to do a bit of trading on BTC-e, and they had the DOJ, whatever, FBI notice this site has been seized. And you're like, oh, you didn't know. Lucky you were already out of there.
I didn't see that. Okay, I already went out. That's good.
I guess you dodged that one, but that was quite a day when I was gonna have a bit of a chat on the troll box with Fontas. I'm never gonna forget Fontas. He was the original king of the pump and dumps, and he would go in the chat box and say, everyone buy LTC, everyone buy LTC. Of course, he already had a huge bag of it, and he was, pressing that sell button. But those were the good old days. I'm looking forward to whenever they get around to making a Bitcoin movie. This is in the back of my mind. In 20 years, once we've won and we're the global reserve currency, then we'll just do some mega flip starter and or probably we'll be able to just AI generate it for free anyway at that point. And we'll just make the Bitcoin the movie. I don't know why I've said this before on the show. I don't know why the BTC Maxi, some of those rich guys, why haven't they just put down like 100 mil, 10 mil each and made a blockbuster movie? Like global adoption would rocket up if they made a super cool movie that everybody had to go and see. And you made it super cool about, the Mt. Gox and the early hackers, and they put in some of the Blockstream conspiracies. Of course, they wouldn't do that, but we can do that and have the dodgy stuff in the background and shady deals being done. And because all the people that were in it, like some of them are not, but most of them are still alive and free out of prison. So you could have them cameo in there either as themselves or as even just as side characters, and people in the know could see that they were in there. It would be so cool. It would be so badass. But obviously,
it would be incredible.
Anyway, there's got to be a scene with BTC-e, on the laptop in the corner when that comes around. That'll be a true reference to the OGs. So when you said that you went for Bitcoin Cash deliberately and you sort of looked back at the history and all of that retroactively, I guess you already knew in your mind that it was supposed to be a currency, but why specifically Bitcoin Cash? What made it stand? I mean, by that time there was many coins. It could be in Litecoin or Dash or anything, right? Ethereum. Why Bitcoin Cash?
Sure. It's what attracted me to Bitcoin was the peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So I would say I deeply understood the problem that Satoshi was trying to address, and the closest to that at that time, at least, was still Bitcoin Cash. So it's a continuation of in fact of the same code base. So true that there were already Dash at that time. It's one thing that I didn't look into Dash itself, but I wasn't really looking anywhere else. I was comparing the two, Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and I just knew that the path that Bitcoin Cash is treading is is more aligned with the solving the problem that Satoshi identified. So it's really the need for a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, because otherwise, if you remove that, you just created a digital version of gold, and gold didn't actually successfully replace fiat because it cannot be used for daily transactions. So people who are going to spend it will have to surrender it to some custodians in exchange for IOUs. And then we are then subject to the same problem that Satoshi was addressing. So it will still be subject to fractional reserve and all this magic that these traditional bankers are doing. So that's I'm more drawn to the problem and solution that was being put forward. Perhaps that's because that's the way I think in my training. Like, what's the problem that you are trying to solve, and what's the solution? What's the hypothesis? There are other options for sure, but Bitcoin Cash works, and it even works better these days because of all these developments, of all these improvements. And I'm very much excited about CashTokens, and I think it's in its way of fully realizing the vision of Satoshi, because you don't stop at a coin that's just used for simple transfers from one address to another. You don't stop there, because what we are planning to do is create a financial system, build the financial system that will replace the current one. And so there has to be a significant level of programmability in the currency itself. And so I see cash tokens as more of a really realizing that grand goal of creating a purely peer-to-peer electronic cash system, purely peer-to-peer financial system even. Every day, my decision to go with Bitcoin Cash is reinforced by all these good developments that are happening. I think, I think you feel what I feel. I might fail in conveying the words that I feel like I'm in the right place, and I feel that this is the kind of revolution that should be happening. Not all those distractions aside that leave the problem unsolved in the first place. So what's the point, right? Get right into the problem, solve it, and maybe we can explore things like encourage speculation around, or at least not discourage it, because that's what the market is currently. And then let's not lose the attention on the problem. Although we get into this capturing the current market, it's fine, but our eyes is still solidly set on solving the problem that Satoshi himself set to solve.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that's quite hard to convey to people, like you're explaining. The idea of an actual paradigm shift is a very hard thing to convey to somebody else. I recently saw on Twitter the other day, somebody posted, there's this Bitcoin meme, I'm sure you probably would have seen it, of it's Morpheus and Neo from the Matrix. And Neo says, what do you mean to tell me that I can trade my Bitcoins for millions one day? And this meme, in the response that I saw, it had Morpheus saying, no, Neo, I'm trying to tell you can trade it for billions. And I was just like face palming, because the original meme was very, very famous in the Bitcoin community. One of the most upvoted posts on the original Bitcoin was, no, Neo, I can, I'm trying to tell you eventually you won't have to, right? Just like you can dodge bullets. No, once you've moved past that, you'll just be able to stop the bullets. It's like that. Once you will never need to trade your Bitcoin for millions, because it's not about trading back dollars. It's just the Bitcoin is the money. And even that message has been watered down and lost by so much speculation that even just getting people to that, but they're starting to get there, I think, in general. Certainly when I tell people these days that I earn money in BCH, I'm less likely to get a response of like, oh, and then do you cash it out or anything? They more like understand that idea of a circular economy that only exists inside the BCH ecosystem. But even just getting to that point is hard enough, let alone then if we open up the box with cash tokens and, well, we're going to replace, loans and banks and financial assets, and then we're going to tie it to the Internet of Things and like all that. It's like 10 steps too many, I think, for the average person to understand, right? Okay, we got to talk about the price because we do every episode. And as you're an expert trader that you were telling us, maybe you could give us some top financial tips on the market. But Bitcoin Cash today is $116.56 US, which is flat. One BTC buys 232.2 BCH, also relative, like up a tiny bit, but basically flat. And one ETH buys 15.6 BCH, also flat. Our nemesis internet computer still ranking ahead of us. So how do you feel about the markets? Are you a big trader these days anymore, or are you out of that game?
Yeah, I'm completely out of that. The price doesn't matter to me much anymore. I'm more of looking at the fundamentals of the coin of BCH. So it only matters to me when I need to cash out because it's gonna hurt me when the price is low. But other than that, I'm not really bothered. Like in like the way BTC maxes are presenting, like they always show this price graph. Like, look, BCH is a failure. You see the price against Bitcoin. That's like we know that the price pump in BTC has been partly or maybe majorly influenced by the Ether USDT printing. So it's the market is heavily manipulated. So the price that you see is not necessarily like what they are presenting, like, hey, the market has spoken, something like that, because and then they present this crash in price of BCH against BTC. I'm not really bothered at all by these kinds of rhetorics. It only matters to me when at the point I need to get some cash to pay for bills and the price is low. But we can always find the right timing. Aside from that, price doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's funny because I think the irony is the people most likely to post that graph are the people who weren't there to get the benefit of that change. They've just bought some in the last year or the last 2 years when the ratio has changed a little bit, but not that much. And, they bought it's like if you had that graph and then maybe I need to make a meme where I put a red dot on it and a line saying you bought here, and they're like, oh, it's such a victory. But it's like, they're not the ones who were actually in on it early. They never bother with those price graphs because they understand the history and this changed and that changed. And lots of the people who were in that early, then they bought Ethereum and then they made gains and all this. So it's like this weird backwards looking attempt, like prayer almost. They're hoping that that's going to repeat or something. But the past is not like the future. The future is not like the past, rather. So I think it's always very strange that they're always very backwards looking about what happened in the past rather than, it doesn't really matter if the price went down yesterday. If the fundamentals are better, it's still a better thing to buy tomorrow. Right. So tell us about Paytaca. So it's a Philippines-based company. You were telling me in Tacloban, not in Manila, and you have obviously a wallet, but also a point of sales app, peer-to-peer marketplace. You've got a few different things going on. Give me the rundown. How did Paytaca start, and what are you doing?
So the idea about Paytaca started in 2018, even earlier than my involvement in SciBiz. It wasn't like the idea, the product Paytaca now, but the idea about creating a crypto wallet. The idea of helping bridge the gap of like having this revolutionary technology that will change the financial world, and then the masses not knowing about it, like not being able to use it. So that's eventually that's the place where I wanted to be, because I'm not a node developer. I don't know the the internals of how the Bitcoin Cash node works or how to program it. I have to be like a step higher in the stack, like higher level application development. So, and since I'm concerned about this particular problem about how do you make this awesome technology more useful to people, and how do you make the vision happen? Like eventually, we all want BCH to be used by more people, right? It will be a shame to have such a technology with a lot of potential and only a handful of people in the world are using it. So I kind of put myself in that position to think about what I can do to promote the use of cryptocurrencies, specifically Bitcoin Cash, for payments in real world commerce. And so the dream started in 2018, and then in 2019 I shared the idea with my friends. It wasn't about Bitcoin Cash even at that time. We just wanted to do anything with blockchain and create a wallet and then make it useful for payments. Like just try it out in the real world and see what works. And so we bumped into problems that we would not have realized if we didn't like take the dip. Yeah, I'm that kind of person. Like I'm not gifted with like some people are able to see far ahead even before doing things. For me, I'm more of a doer and then learn along the way. So it's like learning to fly an airplane while you have to fly it right midair. That's the kind of like that's the way I learn. That's the way I do things. So we will discover more about the problem and how to solve things along the way if you start solving it. So we bumped into issues about creating a blockchain-based electronic money in a wallet. So we discovered that the finance industry is super heavily regulated. You just can't make your way around it if you're not part of the establishment. And so when I started looking into Bitcoin Cash, because I got involved in SpiCe, and then I investigated, I read back in the history, and I realized that why not use just Bitcoin Cash? And it's anti-establishment, so it's the technology is there, and the resilience is there of the tech to establish that vision of creating a more fair and more useful electronic money for everyone. So from the more generic wallet idea, it turned into a Bitcoin Cash wallet idea, and we started building late 2019. And yeah, in the same manner, we just went at it, build all the basic parts, make it work, release the early part, and make it useful to other people. And there are bugs, we deal with it. But of course, we had to make sure that we were building on a good foundation. Like really, creating a wallet is unlike creating a traditional digital wallet. When you create a crypto wallet, you only have to care about one thing: make sure that the seed phrase is not compromised. Like it's not possible to send this to the server. It's locked into the device as much as possible. You only have to care about this. You can sleep at night at peace. And so all the other functionalities were built incrementally with as much as possible with immediate touch with the touching base with the users and getting the feedback early and iterating from there. And going back, so we have this wallet, and then the problem was really about how to make it, how to promote adoption with this wallet. So creating a wallet is just one step. I felt that in order to fill that niche that I decided I should take, like promoting adoption of cryptocurrency for payments, creating a wallet is one, and then after that, we should promote its use locally at first. That's the best we could do with the resources that we have. So in our city here in Tacloban, we onboarded merchants. We have now 7 merchants, active merchants that are accepting Bitcoin Cash ever since they were onboarded. And we have a few users that are regularly spending their currency converting to Bitcoin Cash and spending it on our partner merchants. And so we felt the need to create all the other tools as well that works with the wallet, specifically the POS. And from time to time we encounter we kind of expected certain problems, but we didn't really fully understand until we encountered it. Like the problems about volatility in price. In the beginning, we just like naively thought that some merchants who are really interested will just not care about volatility. But it was at least for some, for a few, for one or two merchants we had, it wasn't a concern in the beginning. Like, it's okay, we can just accept. It's just a tiny fraction of our sales. So anyway, we will be investing in cryptocurrency. Why not just get it also from our sales? So it's okay. But the moment that sales were coming in, so more and more people were using it, like he started to feel like, oh, this is a concern. Like, what if the price drops significantly? And so it was also at that point that AnyHedge was launched, and so we think this is perfect. This is not necessarily like perfect, but I mean, it came at the right time. Like we should explore this, and so we were the first wallet team to really explore AnyHedge and get it integrated into the wallet and see if it works out. And later on, I'm always in communication with the AnyHedge people, the general protocols. I'm sharing our experiences so we can learn from it together on how to improve the product. But AnyHedge is great. It can be used to address concerns about price volatility. But in terms of the user experience, it's not there yet. And I can understand that general protocols have to really like zoom in to a particular market where they can be sustainable. And at the moment, there's a mix between like there has to be a healthy dose of speculation for BCH bull to work, right? And it's not really like geared towards merely just solving the concerns of merchants to fix the volatility problem. So there's a lot of back and forth communication between us and the general protocols on how to tackle this problem. But I'm glad really that the protocol is there, the solution is there. We just have to iterate from there. And from our experience on the ground with the merchants, I believe we can come up with a certain level of sophistication in coming up with an application, user-facing application, so that they don't have to worry about these steps right now that are rather cumbersome for them. So for us, I kind of expect that we're gonna have to build a lot of these tools because they don't exist. These protocols may be there, and I'm glad people are working on it. But like making sure that this tool tech is going to be useful to the merchants, they don't exist. So as a wallet company, as a wallet developer, and as someone who's committed to see BCH being used for payment, we can't just sit back and wait. So let's see what we can do. Let's build that. This is missing. Let's build that. This all with the goal of making it easy actually for the masses to use Bitcoin Cash for payments.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that the Bitcoin Cash community is so pragmatically focused. And in the short term, maybe that doesn't get a lot of play in the cryptocurrency markets, but slowly these pieces are coming together, like you're saying, because we're finding hard problems and actually attacking them. And if you just keep relentlessly pushing away on something while everybody else is distracted with other nonsense, sooner or later that fad or that cycle or that VC money or whatever it is runs out, and you get down to brass tacks of like, what is this actually about? And in terms of getting to mass adoption, like you're saying, getting loads of users on board, at the end of the day, you can't just keep selling people the same scammy bullshit. You need to show them something real, and it's something that works. And I think we're starting to get to that stage of public awareness where people are comfortable enough with the idea of cryptocurrency, but they also are highly aware of how many different scams there are. And so to convince them, if you have a solid pitch, and I've seen this myself in onboarding people and so on. If you can explain it all clearly and show them and demonstrate, then they get it and they say, yeah, okay, this seems legitimate. But if you're trying to hype it up with any nonsense, they're onto you instantly. They know. So when you said that the users are growing, or the merchants are getting more and more traction, what are the stats like that? Do you have any insight into currently how many users and how many like daily transactions maybe are you doing locally or around the world in Paytaca? Do you know those?
I can pull up the stats. So we have this.
Yeah, brilliant.
We have this simple tool to just pull the stats. But also this includes wallets that are created for testing purposes. So
Yeah.
in the last 30 days, we have an average of 32 new wallets created. In the last 7 days, 44 new wallets created per day.
Wow.
And at one time, we were actively like promoting the wallet. As with anything to do with marketing and promotions, it's rather costly. But we
Yes.
tried that anyway. We tried that anyway in the spirit of like, let's dip our toe and learn. So we have engaged a social media influencer. So yes, like 2.5 million followers in TikTok, and we just created some videos introducing Paytaca, and then they are encouraged to ask questions. Like, we really got some sensible questions from there that I didn't expect, but it was good. It was a good exercise, and that created a lot of curiosity about what Paytaca is, and then started comparing it with e-wallets, because e-wallets are very popular in the Philippines. Like there's one particular e-wallet that has reached a unicorn status because of the pandemic. Like, it became really used everywhere. And at the time that we were doing this campaign, there were issues of users, like their funds just disappeared from the wallet or got transferred to some unknown bank account that they didn't know, they didn't do the transfers. So people were starting to compare, like, oh, maybe it's our funds are safer in Paytaca, and I think that's a very good, like, they're doing the campaign for us by like messing up their wallet, and that's really favorable for our growth. But yeah, we work under limited resources at the moment, so good to know that we can tap into this avenue in order to rapidly grow the user base. At one point, we were like having 160 new wallets per day, and that brought our downloads to like 5,000 downloads in Google Play. The app itself, the mobile app, just counting the mobile app. So recently, we also have a rise in usage of our browser extension, because this CashTokens stuff, we really worked hard to get that out in the upgrade day, because there was this amazing work by Bitcoin Cash artists, the Emerald DAO, and
Yes.
it would have been difficult to interact with without the wallet. So we wanted to get it out during the upgrade day. There were some glitches, like bad user experience in the beginning, but we're able to iron out. And so we are also getting a lot of downloads lately of the browser extension. And so if CashTokens really takes off, we will get to have more projects, and we open the specs, the specifications on how to integrate the Paytaca Connect feature to their applications. You would expect like this is going to take off. Also, the number of downloads of the browser extension. So in terms of number of transactions, in the last 7 days, we are like 300 daily transactions.
300 every day. Wow. Okay. Jeez.
Going through Paytaca.
That's a lot. I mean, if that's 300 people using it every single day, that's a good that's a good pool of users, and it's probably, you know, more than that, and maybe some are using it some days and others other days. So yeah, wow, that's really encouraging. And like you said, well, just I always tend to think of things in terms of a startup or any entrepreneurial thing, you know, where the initial user pool is the most important. You don't need to have millions of fans for anything. You just need some that love it. And then, like you said, if you get the resources, you just get a bit of extra marketing going, and then boom, you know, if something can work for 50 people, it can work for 500,000 probably. Obviously there'll be scaling and changes along the way, but if you can't get to 50 people, well, then you're not, you know, there's something not right, something not working. But if you can get 50 people, then scaling up from there is just a question of you know, iterating or changing the format. So I want to touch really quickly. Well, firstly, Bitcoin Jason says, when is Paytaca P2P? He's super keen for that.
The work on that is ongoing, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to set a specific ETA because we had to attend to the cash token stuff. But yeah, the work is ongoing. It's always being worked on. We have one dedicated developer on that. I have to check again on the progress. We have had sleepless nights in the last few days to get back on track on other things. We'll make announcements on a fresh timeline for that in our group. But it's coming.
Okay, keep an eye out. And tell me about your team as well. There's just this photo that I've got on the slide of everyone. I don't know even if this is everyone, right? But I think it's like 1, 2, 3. I think it's 18 people I counted earlier in this picture. And when I saw this picture, I was blown away. I know Jet also loves this picture, and it somehow just surfaced up on one of the BCH groups or something like that. And I think the reason it was so impressive is because so many of the BCH projects are done by like sometimes just a sole developer, or sometimes just a couple people, you know, on this show, right? It's Jet and I, and we have 3 other guys that help out, you know, here and there with small bits of it, right? But it's all, you know, very online, a lot of it, or even like in Townsville, you know, they've got a couple people there. But once you're getting up to like 18 or 20, that's a lot of people if they're full time, all in the same place, all working hard. You know, that's incredible. So if you could just speak to that element of your team, I'm fascinated.
Actually, before we started working on Paytaca, I mentioned earlier that I started a company. Was supposed to be a bioinformatics company. It's called SciBiz Informatics. So it's the first company that I started in the Philippines. So it came to be like a generic software development company, mostly taking on outsourced projects from other countries, mostly from the US, UK, Europe. And so I already had a pool of developers working for me in the company. And then when I got to build a prototype for the earliest version of Paytaca, and I talked to partners who would be willing to fund initially, like creating an entity and then setting it up really like a real startup. We created another company. So Paytaca in itself is a company, so Paytaca Incorporated. But my pre-existing company is still there, and in fact, the developers who are working on Paytaca is from the other company. It's like Paytaca outsources the development to the other company, but it's just us. We live here in our office in Tacloban. But it's structured. It's structured that way. So when we got funded in the first Flipstarter, that's when I really got to involve almost everyone in my SciBiz Informatics team to work on Paytaca. So different features, different aspects of it. And I assigned 1 or 2 developers. And then we were able to hire more people to do the marketing, try this marketing strategy out in the market. I didn't realize until we have this picture, like we decided like we should have a group picture. And it's getting to a really good number. And that we were able to sustain it somehow, and especially that we had our second flip starter. And we plan to keep growing the team actually, because what we have been doing basically is trying to tackle the different points, the different bottlenecks for scaling the company. Because the moment we approach to like bigger investors, that should be a point where we can convince them that we can scale. So one was the marketing. What's the strategy that worked for us? So we had to experiment on that. We have the data to show, well, we got up to this point until we decided, oops, we will run out of resources if we keep doing that. So stop, at least we learned something interesting. And then on the tool side, we cannot really keep sustaining and expanding network of merchants if we don't have our own POS system. So that we built. We need a map to show our like the expanse of our network. Not at the moment because we only have like 7 merchants, but if we try to scale it in a global scale, we should have all these different things in place before we can really get to a point where our case as a startup becomes convincing. And in a way, this is different from how other startups work, because it's just, we admit it, it's just a lot easier to raise money for non-BCH things in a traditional funding environment. So we really make a point to build a convincing case that, all right, we come to you convinced that all the bottlenecks that we can see are addressed. We are prepared to scale this thing, and we need your money. So we want to get to that point. And that's how we have like this diverse set of people to work on different aspects of what we can see as bottlenecks that we need to prepare, address. Yeah.
So that's the next step of the monetization plan. Like you said, I think I remember from your previous flip starter that you had said, okay, we just kind of it was like, guys, we need one more flip starter and then we'll be at a stage where we can move on, or we have other monetization going on, or we're going to get an investment. That's the game plan there, right?
Yeah. So one of the critical parts we need to set in place is how do we actually generate revenue. And in a way, we have implemented some of it. For example, for our settlement service, so we have our own AnyHedge settlement service for our integration of it in the wallet. So there we are charging a settlement fee, the same way that BCH Boo is also charging a settlement fee. And soon we will be rolling out the P2P exchange, where we also add like a service fee. We are also working on the marketplace with a local delivery component, like Uber Eats kind of thing, or Food Panda and all those food delivery things. And there we can also collect some fees, service fee or some margin on the price. So these are things that's part of the plan to really get this product to a point where the only thing we need to do is scale. Like there's nothing that will stop us from scaling the business. So yeah, the sources of revenue, that's the thing we need to set in place and roll out, and then see how it goes. For sure, we will learn a lot of things in the same way that we did for all the other features we have rolled out. We adapt quickly to feedback. So yeah, we just have to get it started, roll it out, learn quickly from user experience.
Yeah. So then let's get on to, so you mentioned the Emerald DAO earlier. I'm super excited about this. Obviously, big shout out to Bitcoin Cash Artist for coming up with this and doing it. And then also to you for making the implementation so that we could actually try it out on the launch day, because that was super cool. So for people people can check it out if you go on the bitcoincashpodcast.com FAQs. I've got a page called What is Emerald DAO, and you can click there and read about it. You can try it out. But it's this idea that essentially people are able to lock their coins up. So I think at the moment it's 0.1 BCH that you lock up, and then you get an NFT in return. And now the NFT has a cute little fiendish icon, which is kind of fun. And then it sits in there for 1 year, and you can't get it out. You can't, it's stuck in there in a safe box. And then at the end of the 1 year, you can burn the NFT to get your money back, right? So what's the point of that? Okay, well, the first thing is that it's just a cool idea. It was just a cool demonstration, proof of concept. But the idea of it being the sort of Emerald DAO, and it's kind of a nice concept, was that, well, what if you also got like an interest payment on that, like being in a bank savings deposit? So in this case, where is the interest coming from? Well, the bank, usually they would make some risky investments, hopefully not lose your money, and then they would pay you out some of that interest. But in this case, the interest comes from, so Bitcoin Cash Audis has just created this and has put some of his own money into it as basically the interest part of it. So you put in 0.1 BCH, 100 milli BCH, and then you get one bonus MBCH back. So there's only a maximum of 2,000 people that can do it for this first iteration. But it's a super cool idea because this could be expanded. So you can imagine as the BCH ecosystem grows in Paytaca, in other wallets, we could have this little app there where you could go in it and essentially people can donate money into that incentive fund. Like I'd throw in $5, right? Maybe a lot of people would. And then that would then pay out people who locked up their coins. So then that would mean that more and more of the market would be incentivized to lock up their coins in a similar way, actually, to how any hedge does it, on chain in a contract that everybody can see. And so then we're encouraging people to move to self-custody, because you can't do this if you have your coins on an exchange, right? So that could be freaking amazing. And once you have that incentive system in place, I can, for instance, see a system where it became really popular to do this, or it becomes a sign of community goodwill to put money into the incentive fund. So like you might run a Flipstarter, or I could run a Flipstarter for this podcast, and maybe one of the items in my pitch would be, and I'm going to put 2 BCH into the Emerald DAO. It's kind of like a way of showing goodwill back to the community in a proof that's also incentivizing people to take self-custody and sort of redistributing funds through the ecosystem. And you can prove it on chain and all of that. So it's just this, like, I think this is just the very first app of CashTokens, right? But we're going to see how it all develops. And like, this is what crypto is all about. Like you were saying, it's got to be a whole new financial system, right? This is the parts that we're starting to get to, some of that fun DeFi stuff. So yeah, maybe you could tell us a little bit about why you chose to get involved in this one specifically, and what was the process like of setting it up?
You mean the Emerald DAO?
Yeah, like, because you've made this little integration, and at least from what I understand, it was more just like, it was just for this proof of concept, right? It's not all generalized and everything like that. It was literally just for this one specific use case. But maybe there was something that you learned from that experience that you think, okay, going forward with integrating different cash tokens apps, or why this project? How did this come about?
Okay, backtracking a bit, because before the cash tokens upgrade happened, and we were working on a lot of things as usual, and we really needed to be one of the first, if not the first, to work on integrating cash tokens in a wallet. So for some time already, Matthew's wallet was there. So we wanted to be the first to integrate it in a browser extension, and to demonstrate how it's going to make a lot easier for people to interact with cash tokens applications. And so the idea, just like the circumstances, was falling at the right place at the right time, because we needed the expertise on writing contracts and even processing or building the transactions so that it fits within the browser extension model. And we were not really prepared until a few weeks before, and it wasn't even something that my team can deliver by ourselves on a timely manner. So actually, most of the work that was done to make it to get it to that level where just a few point and click steps. It's mostly the work of Pat, mainnet Pat, the developer of the mainnet.js package. He's been really active into incorporating CashTokens into his library. And at some point, he approached me and said, I think I can do a lot of things for Paytaca. And Paytaca is open source. So that was very natural for us to come into some kind of collaboration instantly. And so I said, yes, of course, we need all the help we can get to make this a more awesome product, especially that we're both very excited about CashTokens. So we said, okay, we'll see what we can do on the wallet side of things. You take care of the contracts and the interactions with the web-based apps. And we worked on it together. And Bitcoin Cash Artist was like writing scripts here and there, like I described him like the real BCH script guru. Like
yes,
he just spits out wisdom here and there in script form, and I always love seeing those scripts. Like I can understand the structure and even the syntax, but the level of the attention to detail and the experience he has in pointing out the flaws in the contracts. That's I'm not there yet. Like I want to achieve that level of wisdom, script wisdom. But the elements were there. Like the people were there. Me and Pat were like, we have to get this working, and we have to have an app that will demonstrate what Paytaca can do. And so Bitcoin Cash Artist was there. We reached out to him, or I don't know, it was the other way around. Like he reached out to us or to Pat, and then okay, let's get it done, and then let's get it ready for the upgrade day. And it happened. So it's some level of coordination that we had to do, but we were running out of time. So I apologize for those who had like a really bad experience in the beginning. But we made it, and we quickly also improved on a lot of things that were reported on by early users.
Yeah. No, it's amazing that you shipped. I love hearing this story. Shout out to mainnet Pat as well too then, because as time goes on and the scene is starting to grow a little bit, but I think one of the other main things that's really happening in BCH that I'm noticing is the cooperation between people. I mean, that's the whole point of this. In the end of the day, is it's an economy, and the interesting thing or the obvious thing that might not be apparent to people who aren't as deep in it, but the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem, as stupid as it sounds, we do all use Bitcoin Cash. So whenever these little collaborations and cooperations and stuff start to pop up, transactions start to flow, and people get into these little economic deals, and it all operates seamlessly. And like you said, with people who are anonymous or people in all around the world, it doesn't matter. The financial part of it is already sorted. Like everybody already understands. That's never any problem. And then obviously people are also aligned on the vision, right? We're all here for the same thing. We all want to grow the network. We all want to grow the product. So it's just a very natural fit in that way. Obviously doing this podcast right now, I've talked to and discussed with so many different people in the ecosystem, and I'm always surprised, even though I shouldn't be, it should be obvious, but it's always surprising, at least nice to hear when I hear about so-and-so and somebody else is collaborating. You know, they've got started on a little project, and that's only going to expand and expand, because as the network effect sort of solidifies, as people get better at referring each other to somebody else who's, like you said, with any hedge, you know, it's all those same things. And as that core kind of graph of people that are heavily invested grows and grows and grows, it will just compound on itself how fast everything accelerates, right? So it's amazing in that sense. Okay, tell me about this BitCats NFTs as well. So you already had Emerald DAO, then you also had this. So you're dropping multiple projects on release day. This is a pretty good delivery rate. So I have minted two. These were the first. Well, I minted the Emerald DAO ones as well, and then I've now minted two of these BitCats as well. It's a 10,000 NFT series of you put on the site hand-drawn digital art. So I'm not too sure if you can hand draw digital art, but it's not. There's a generative element, but also a customized element. It sounds like, and on-chain activity on BCH has been rising this last couple of days. It's up, from 10,000 transactions a day to 15 or 16,000 transactions a day post CashTokens. And so we had BCH Guru that we discussed last week on the show. There's Reapers from SBCH coming over to CashTokens, and somebody also announced another one called Angry Maxis, plus also your one BitCat. So I'm loving this. The ecosystem, it's like we've only had a couple of days in CashTokens. We've already got like 4 NFT projects. So what inspired you to do an NFT project, and what's the vision going forward here?
Okay, yeah. I don't know if you're aware that in the SmartBCH ecosystem, we are one of the prolific creators of NFT series projects. So we had Spice NFT, we had Gambling Apes, Punk Apes, and that's because we have I have artists working for us in-house, and this very talented people. They do really hand draw these images.
Wow.
This artwork. So it works by drawing the different parts of the artwork as a separate layer, and then we do some scripting to generate the different combinations. And there's a lot of work also involved in fishing out those bad combinations. They look off. Some attributes just don't go together. And so it's funny because sometimes people mint cat with some parts really off, it escapes our manual review, and so now they're very rare, or they're rather rare than most, because we have spent a lot of time to really remove those. But 10,000 images. Actually, we reviewed more than 20,000 images. So it's sometimes we get a few there included in the final set. But anyway, I'm not the type of BCH fan who likes to limit Bitcoin Cash to pure financial transaction. So I believe that Bitcoin Cash can be and should be usable also for things that are partly financial and also partly serving a certain function or market where people find it valuable, like NFT or other DeFi applications. So it's really not an NFT series is not very different from Emerald DAO, like a savings application. They use the financial system. They use BCH for a particular custom or specific use case that people find useful or valuable, or at least fun or entertaining. So since Bitcoin Cash is now with CashTokens activated, we are able to create some tokens, fungible and non-fungible, and even more advanced applications. We can start to cater to this market. So we have tried that in SmartBCH. We have tried that with SLP, with some degree of success or failure, or a mix of the two. But I would say that as an ecosystem, we have learned a lot from this experience. We have learned in SLP. We have learned that a protocol that's like a sidecar into the consensus. It's not even part of the consensus. It's like a layered on top, which is not different from what these maxis are doing with BRC20.
Yes,
So
it's very ironic. They're just
we,
several
we
years
have
behind.
learned we have learned the pitfalls, the lessons from there, and at this point, they're at the point of like a honeymoon period. Like we expect after some time they're gonna have to run into problems. But anyway, so we have learned a lot from SLP that we really do need a native token protocol, because otherwise we cannot build advanced applications. Even just creating some a bit more complex logic in a contract, we cannot do that with SLP in a straightforward way, if at all possible. And in SmartBCH, we learned that we have demonstrated the potential of having a side chain that has programmability that's even compatible with EVM. So people will flock into this. Some of us may not agree with how people, why they value this, but the market is there, and they would like to go into these things, mostly or partly speculative. But we know that the market is there, but the design was not optimal in the case of SmartBCH, right? So it was marketed as a side chain, but it wasn't really a real side chain, and we had our BCH backing in a centralized entity, and we can enumerate all those things, but the point is we have learned a lot from all these tokenization experiments, and we have learned that there is value that can be obtained from this, and now we have it in the BCH main chain itself, and it's miner validated. You can incorporate this in your contracts. So the power that can bring to the main chain to BCH it's limitless. It's an open horizon for developers, for startup founders. Now you can build really complex DeFi applications on Bitcoin Cash, and you can cater to all different kinds of market, not just purely financial transactions, but also NFT stuff and things like what Emerald DAO has built, and even more. I would expect in the next coming months there will be a lot more projects that will be announced making use of cash tokens for different DeFi applications. So since we have the talent in-house to produce NFTs, me and Pat were itching to demonstrate all this power of cash tokens in the shortest time possible. And why not? Why don't we launch an NFT series? And so I charged my artists to come up with the idea and just throw in some abstract things like it should be about cats, it should have green eyes, and it should have some BCH here and there. And then boom, they created all this 10,000 images of cats. We work on the contract side of things, on the wallet. It was basically me and Pat. It was the two of us who orchestrated this and did a lot of work to make it happen. And the initial idea was just to get it out there as a demonstration of what you can do with cash tokens. And then, but I'm aware of how it works in other NFT projects. It was okay in the very early days of NFTs to just sell images and that's it. And people will buy it. But later on, it has become like people came to expect something. Like when you sell out these kinds of images, what will you do with the money? And so for us, it came later. Like roughly, we had this idea that okay, we will use it to build, to improve the things that we have been doing for BCH, the wallet, mainnet.js on Pat's side. But just yesterday, actually, I discussed with Pat we should probably come up with we commit to something concrete to build from the proceeds of the mint. And so we agreed. I'm doing an advance announcement of our roadmap, which I'm supposed to release this week.
Exclusive.
Yeah, first in your podcast. So definitely part of the proceeds will be donated to Paytaca development. And then we are building an NFT marketplace. So since we already sold this NFT images, this series, we can bring this further by creating the marketplace because we don't have it yet. It's actually like interesting things begin to happen when trade is involved. Like it's not enough to just have this. You have some cats, I have some cats, but I like your cat. I don't like one of my cats. You might want to trade. So we want to encourage that kind of activity by creating a marketplace. And so that's one of the things we will commit to build with the money we get. And then I floated around the idea of airdrops because airdrops are very common in other chains. Like they have handy tools to airdrop tokens. Like when there are, of course, we would expect like it will be used by legit projects, by scammy projects. It's a tool, just like any other tool. You can use it in a good way, in a bad way. But definitely we need something like to facilitate airdrops, those who will have fungible token projects later on. So an airdrop system, like you create a token, you just put in thousands of addresses and then hit the airdrop button, and then it will send airdrops to all those addresses. And you can put constraints like this address should have 0.1 BCH in the wallet before they can receive airdrops, something like that. It's another way to encourage people to huddle BCH because you're gonna get these airdrops. I think overall it's gonna be good. And also, since we're gonna be using Paytaca, specifically the browser extension for this kind of stuff, and maybe even the mobile app later on. These airdrops, which can run for thousands, hundreds of thousands of addresses at some point, depending on the project that needs them. That also translates to downloads of the app. And so it's good for Paytaca also to have this kind of tool. So those things. So donation to Paytaca, the NFT marketplace, and then the airdrop system. Those are the commitments we have from the sale of this BitCats NFT. And one thing I mentioned is that the marketplace is going to be just like any marketplace. We charge a fee, right? So there's a trading fee. But for BitCats owners, the fee is going to be waived.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. So that's why now I've got two, so I can have one so that I have no fees, and then I can trade around some of the other ones. I'm already loving this because I've not been big on any of those decentralized, whatever, they're not even centralized, but whatever it's called, Oasis or what's the name of that other one they have that's super OpenSea, right, where they're trading NFTs or something. I haven't been super keen on a lot of that, but now that it's on Bitcoin Cash, I'm excited. So yeah, people can check it out at bitcatsheroes.club. That's bitcatsheroes.club and mint yourself some of these cats. At the moment, you've got 360 out of 10,000 minted. So I guess 10,000's a lot. So I guess it will take a little while to fill out. But I'm sure especially as the ecosystem is growing, like people will filter in, and then maybe it'll just hit suddenly a point where everybody wants to get in on it, right? All it takes one viral post or one new announcement, and then everyone's excited, right? Or I guess you could probably also use it as rewards for other things, like maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do a giveaway on this show of like right into the chat. You know, if you're in the chat, I'll send you a BitCat or something. Actually, now my brain's spinning. Like you said about trading, once you start things really.
This is really what I'm saying. Like the moment you start like engaging in any like building or getting involved in something, some application development, or just plainly communicating with other people who are involved in this, ideas are like popping up. Like there's like cross-pollination of of these different ideas, and then it begins to create new things along the way, interesting things that can add to the overall value. Yeah, that's yeah, we should do that.
That's amazing. All right, well, maybe I'll have to mint a couple more after this episode. So I've got some to give away. I'm pretty happy with my two that I've got so far. I've got one where there's sort of like drooling out of the side of his mouth. He's wearing this red hoodie. It's exactly like I have a red hoodie that I've been wearing around a lot recently. So I like that.
Wow, what a coincidence.
Exactly. And then there's this other one on the right. I could probably trade or sell that one. I'm not as feeling as invested in this other one with a tank top, camouflage tank top. It looks a bit more like a street cat type of vibe. So I'm sure somebody else will be loving that one. So I'll have to swap this one out for one that I'm more attached to, you know. But now I'm in the NFT game now. I've just forget about Bitcoin Cash. This is now going to be the NFT speculators podcast. So tune in next week to hear the latest trades and updates. Okay, tell me about PurelyPeer. So this one is something that I know your team has been kind of working on a bit in the background, and I was super excited about it, and I even got to test it, an early demo. I'm not sure whether we talked about it on this show. Maybe it was more under wraps at that point. But the idea is that it's kind of like Pokemon Go or geocaching. So you have your app, there's a map, you can walk around and essentially just pick up free BCH, which is awesome. Who wouldn't want to do that? Yeah. And then the point is that if you were a business, let's say you have a pizza shop, then you could go on this app and you could scatter about a bunch of BCH near your shop, and then people would come to pick up the BCH. And when they picked it up, it would give them an ad, come check out my shop. And then they're right there. And then obviously your shop is going to be accepting BCH. So now you're getting foot traffic and hype. And I love this idea because I can just see it plays so strongly to BCH strengths, where it encourages people to use it non-custodially. It's kind of fun and sociable as well. I've got a few friends that are big on Pokemon Go, and they go out and they meet different people who are doing it and stuff like that. So that's great. And I can also, like, personally myself, I would advertise on this for sure. I would definitely pay, one BCH to spread out 1,000 or 100 little drops so that everybody who clicked on it would think, oh, the Bitcoin Cash podcast. I'm already interested in Bitcoin Cash. Maybe I'll click and listen to an episode. Like, it seems such an efficient way of marketing to me, and it uniquely plays to BCH. So yeah, it was probably like more than a year ago, maybe even at this point that I tried this out, but I don't know what's the status if it's just one of the many projects that are underway. But do you have any updates about this?
Yeah. So PurelyPeer has been in development for more than a year. One and a half or more. This is one of the things I said that where the moment you build something, you learn a lot along the way. And one of the things was like the thing you mentioned where you use PurelyPeer for advertising your business, and it could work definitely. But for you have to remember that there are only a few people who really use BCH in, like, for example, in our area in the Philippines, even outside of Tacloban, for example. And so if I'm the merchant and I want to spend on advertising, it would be an inefficient way to spend my resources, advertising funds through the app, because the number of eyeballs that will see my ad is a lot less than you spend it for like traditional advertising. So we had this, but definitely it remains one of the things that it can serve for. At some point, we brainstormed about aside from this, what other value could it give to our users aside from being an advertising platform? And there were a lot of things that have been brainstormed. At some point we committed development resources for one path over the other, and then later on just realized we can do things better. And it didn't help that we were building heavily on top of SLP in the beginning. And so we had to like do some soul searching after SLP was not really panning out as a protocol for tokens. And SmartBCH came later, and we were toying with the idea of doing something related to PurelyPeer in SmartBCH. So we have spent also some resources on that. I prefer not to say that they were wasted resources spent, but I hate to admit, but yeah, we lost some time and effort to really try to do something for SmartBCH. But hey, we have CashTokens now, so that adds another dimension to what we can do for PurelyPeer. But at the moment, as an update, so we have improved a lot on the experience in terms of creating your cash drops. So we call it those BCH that you drop in certain geographic points, those cash drops. So we have improved the experience in creating these cash drops, and as well as in the collection. So it's not like Pokemon Go yet level, like you can see, because there's an AR component in Pokemon Go. So we did not work on that in PurelyPeer. We have the map, but it's a 2D map. But there we have built a lot of guides and improvements on the user experience, so it will be a lot easier. And also we have narrowed down the cash drop locations. So we query the OpenStreetMap data for where we're going to place the cash drop. So we have settled on like public places and near the roads, so that it's easier to collect. Because in the previous version, it can be dropped in the middle of the school, and if you don't have access to the school and you've been looking for this cash drop like for an hour, and you realize it's inside a compound you cannot access. Yeah.
But on the other hand, maybe that gives the school kids, then they've got an advantage. Maybe then that they're like, oh, good, somebody else can't come in and grab that, you know?
Yeah, you make a deal with one of the kids, or try to educate them. Like, hey, there's some cash drop inside the school, you can collect it. But yeah, this kinds of things we have improved a lot along the way. And we really planned on launching the open beta for this. Just got delayed because of the CashTokens thing, but we hopefully can get it restarted this June. And so this is something to watch for next month as we roll out this for everybody. Yeah, and then
wow, you're telling me this is going to be available in June. You're going to be rolling it out.
The beta.
Oh wow!
The beta version.
Hell yeah! Oh man.
Yeah, we've been working on it continuously and since a year ago. So we have 2 dedicated developers working on it.
Wow. Okay, you got a lot of different things on the boil at once. This is amazing. I was expecting like, okay, this has been shelved for a while, but we'll kind of get. But it's going to be coming out for the listeners. I played this, like I said, probably more than a year ago, and it was actually really fun. Because I got it and I created some. There was not cash drops in my area, right? But I created some to test it out, and then I was like, okay, well now I've got to go out and pick them up. So I'm walking around in the park near where I'm living and like waving my phone around in the air.
Yeah,
obviously other people like maybe just looking at me like, what is this guy doing? But I think people understand there's these kind of games now, right? But it was actually pretty fun. I was walking up and down this road. I had to be at a certain amount, and then when I finally got onto it and it popped up and I got like a little treasure chest icon thing, I think I got from it, and I was thrilled. Because I'd spent about 20 minutes walking around on this road trying to get onto the right spot. So to be honest, I had a blast. I actually really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to when this game comes out. And I also think it just has such viral potential. It's ridiculous because if we can get to a point where we get a bit of solid BCH traction going like in Townsville or in St. Kitts, if you could combine that with this or in Tacloban, that would be amazing, because then you could there was already people already interested, already kind of familiar with how things were going. And then everybody in the ecosystem from anywhere in the world can just, even if everybody's just putting in $1 or $2 and just bombing in these little drops randomly everywhere, it would be like, we have cash rain, but it would be literally like that. It was raining onto that.
Cash rain, but
that
geolocated.
place.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that would
That's
be
really
so
fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully
something to
that'll
watch
be coming
for
soon.
next month.
Yeah. I'm stoked if this is coming out in June. It's already nearly the end of May. Like, wow, you better not set yourself any. Okay, oh, man, I love it. All this stuff quietly on the boil that I had no idea about. Or okay, all right. That's all your different projects, right? Unless you've got anything else you want to announce or share, like. But you've got so many different streams at Paytaca, it's hard to keep up with them all. I wanted to also touch on some regular sort of crypto news, which is that BCH is starting to get a bit of airtime with the crypto normies. People have asked on the show a couple of times. Ryan asked recently, what do you think about all these crypto influencers? There's a few of them who have 100,000 YouTube subs and 500,000 Twitter followers, and basically they just go from one coin to another in just this random haze, picking up whatever is the trending story of the day. And it seems like BCH is starting to slide back in there. So I've got a clip from this show here. Let me just send you the link to that. It's this guy, Scott Melker. He calls himself the Wolf of all streets, I believe, and he has one of these shows. Jet's just gonna line up the clip here. There's this guy, Ran Nuna. I've never heard of him, to be honest, but he has 700,000 Twitter followers and is apparently a big deal. So he was giving BCH some love on this stream, which is going out to a very different audience to who I'm usually talking to, and I'm sure who you're usually talking to as well too. So let's hear what he had to say.
I think it's good for the crypto market and not necessarily Bitcoin. Option number one is that there is a fork, and then they fork Bitcoin to have one Bitcoin with ordinals, with Taproot and the ability to inscribe ordinals and stuff like that, and fork number two without it. Who gains, who loses? Well, everyone gains, nobody loses. We saw this with the forks in 2017 when there was BCH and BSV, where Bitcoin actually never lost value. Bitcoin gained a lot of value in the run up to those forks. And even when they forked, the sum of the parts was way bigger than the original whole, which meant that people were celebrating innovation. People were saying, hey, you know what, those who want to stay on the previous fork, great, but we've actually incrementally added value to the business. Now, I know from a PR point of view, it's not great that Bitcoin forks and there's disagreement, but history has shown us that if Bitcoin actually does fork, more value is created into the market and everybody gains as a result. Who else gains here? Well, some competitors of Bitcoin, forks of Bitcoin that have been dead for a long time, BCH, BSV, those guys have actually gone up in value. Why? Because people are saying, hold on a second, you know what, maybe this whole big blocks thing is not the end of the world, and maybe there is a use case for a proof of work chain with this kind of use case. And so they gain as well. Who loses? Well, no one's lost. So no one's losing, everyone's gaining, and the maxis are getting upset. And that for me is probably the best result that you could ever wish for.
I agree. James, I want you to obviously give your response, and then we can also talk about the fact clearly that we had some issues on Ethereum as well. This isn't something that's unique to Bitcoin at the moment, right?
Exactly. It's kind of funny the way it's all happening at once. And I agree with everything that Rand said too. But I think it is a concerning time. My biggest concern is, Bitcoin is that famous store of value. Can you imagine how many people it's turning off that are ready to deploy significant amounts of money into that store of value when it gets clogged up with JPEGs? And we know traditional money thinks the whole JPEG thing is crazy,
All right. That's about enough. Oh, man. So there you go. Like, obviously nothing, but he did say later on in the show, I believe, that he has picked up a bit of BCH and so on and so forth. But I just think it's an interesting portal into a different world. I don't know how many of some of my listeners surely are listening to this kind of mainstream crypto, as it were, kind of chat. And I think a lot of them are sort of like, oh, I'm not interested in this clown show. Let's just keep it on the BCH story. And I think for you and I, like we were talking about, we're in this lane where we're in BCH and we're making it happen with real apps and products and services just slowly year after year. And yet there's this whole separate, much, much bigger ecosystem as it currently stands. And to them, it's like, yeah, BCH is just this little sideshow that it's dead. Nobody's really heard about it. And then suddenly it pops back up again and they're surprised. Oh, it's come out of the woodwork again. Just because the wind is blowing in our favor with the ordinals stuff. And I just thought it's so interesting. This other guy, the second one who was talking invest answers, that's just the classic, like, low info takes. This guy has hundreds of thousands of subscribers or whatever on his channel, and yet he's like, oh, Bitcoin, this store of value, and he's really worried that ordinals is going to ruin the big investors coming into the market, because he's hoping to pump up his bags and pump up the bags of all his listeners. And anyway, anybody can go and listen to the rest of that talk. The original video is called DCA Live, Is Crypto Broken? Ivan on Tech, Ran Neuner, CTO Larson, Invest Answers, on Scott Melker's YouTube channel. But this other guy then goes on, he talks about basically, no, I don't really like forks, they disrupt Bitcoin, yada yada. But then he says, you know what we need? Solana. It's layer one, it's got high scalability, it's got instant transactions, it's resilient. And he just basically explains that he wants BCH, but just the brand name or whatever stories is going around, he's not convinced about it, right? So do you have a take on this? Do you follow a lot of this stuff, or do you just like ignore
it? For me, it's like noise, unnecessary noise. But I do see sometimes some of this in my Twitter feed, and sometimes I make a comment here and there, but I actively want to get rid of it. Like, okay, I should not spend some mental energy on this. But yeah, somebody has got to pay attention to what they are saying, and then come up with reasonable, sensible, witty replies, or at least address the points. I don't know if it's even worth doing it, but I just feel that it's not for me. I just let them be.
Yeah, it's not really for me either, but I just think it's a fascinating example of why did it get noticed? Because the price went up a little bit, right? That's just the bottom line summary that everybody is looking at of all these coins. Like, everybody is looking at the coin market cap, yada yada. And so then when the price goes up, if there's something coincidental like the ordinal stuff that they can tie it into, well, then that becomes it. You know, there's been years of Bitcoin Cash adoption and projects. The community is more harmonious. We just had the CashTokens release. You know, there's more apps coming out. There's more on-chain activity. This podcast is growing. Like, there's so many different things you could point to. All of that, completely unaware of any of that. Instead, it's just like, well, the price is pumped because big block Bitcoin is suddenly looking good again. And maybe that's true. Maybe that is all that it was, right? So it's just a case of the fundamentals take a long time to show through. But what it also shows to me is that it's not, this kind of stuff can go big fast. Like, we're already kind of sitting in it's like cycling, you know, in the peloton. Like, we're already sitting on the back wheel there. And as long as we're working on real projects and stuff, what's going to happen at some point is the price is going to go up 20% in a week, or it's going to double in a week, something like that, some announcement or something. And then one of these guys will say, hey, have you guys looked at Bitcoin Cash? I looked into them, and did you know they've got this and this and this and this? And that will all be like old news to us, but it'll be a mind-blowing revelation on this show as everyone's like, wait, wow, those guys are actually really doing it. And it will become a story. Suddenly all the speculators will come in, right? So I'm just got to flag that up because listeners to this show will be like, of course that's going to happen. But when it eventually does, we can look forward to that day. It's just a matter of time, right? Okay, so we got the BTC Miami has been on this week as well too. I promised on the last episode that we'd cover it. a little bit. But to be honest, it was pretty boring. Like, I even saw some BTC people commenting, wow, we really didn't have much announced. So attendees were estimated at about 15,000, which, to give some context, last year it was 35,000. So huge drop off in attendee numbers. I watched some of the industry day panels. They had one about BlockFi scamming, then one about Gemini scamming, then one about FTX scamming. And I was thinking, what is this? They don't have any news. Like, they don't have any apps. They don't have any announcements. They don't have any protocol updates. They don't have any adoption. They don't have anything. It's literally just 9 months old scams recycling. And then in the next day, they did have a little bit more. They had a ordinals panel with Udi and Eric Wall, who were basically halfway between saying, guys, Bitcoin's falling behind. Like, Ethereum is where all the action is. And also saying, haha, we broke your protocol, and sort of nobody knows what to make of it. There's kind of a bit of a general sentiment, like we do need to get out of this whole digital gold nonsense, but they don't really know how to do it. So everybody just seemed quite confused. And then obviously there was also, well, not obviously, I guess, but RFK Jr., the American Democratic politician I think he's trying to run for president, right? He was also gave a bit of a speech. And then I also saw Vivek Ramaswamy, who's trying to run for the Republican nomination, also announced he was accepting BitPay donations. So it seems like it's really getting into the political sphere, that like crypto is becoming something that you can make that a bit of an issue, because there's so many crypto users, so many people like it, that you can jump on board with that. But did you follow any of this BTC Miami news, or is that something you're interested in, or you take any lessons from?
No, not really. I'd like to attend a conference, but hopefully it's a Bitcoin Cash conference. Last time it was in St. Kitts, so it's
a long way away.
Too far for me. Yeah. I never actually joined any conference before, so it would be interesting. I hope the next location is going to be more manageable for me.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know what the current plans are for the Bitcoin Cash, if we're going to do a 2023 conference. I've heard some very vague whispers, but not even enough that I would consider them like, maybe this is going to happen. It might be the case, I think, that maybe this year there just isn't one, and then next year there is one. That's what I would be putting my sats on, I think, just because, well, we had the St. Kitts one, and that was great. But like you said, it was a long way away for a lot of people. But even the people it was like a big thing to do and to organize. And this stuff is not simple, right? That's why it's fascinating to watch these BTC Miami, because they've now been running for 10 years. And there's some excellent, fantastic photos of 10 years ago where they just had this kind of empty rooms and all that, right? But now,
and so the conference ran 10 days. This Miami thing.
It's only 3 days. It was on Thursday,
3 days,
and Friday and Saturday, and I think it's basically wrapping up today or tomorrow. Today-ish, or maybe it's already kind of over. But nothing really got announced. Jack Mallers, I watched his talk, and he basically said, guys, they've changed their logo so that it's like somebody giving the finger to show how punk that they are. That was his big announcement. He started this whole story about 2 years ago I was in El Salvador and we're bringing freedom and all that. But that was 2 years ago. Legal tender, the Bitcoin city, all this stuff. It was going to be hype. Nayib Bukele, we're taking over. And then last year, Nayib wasn't there because he was busy fighting gangs, and the adoption had created and the price had created. And now this year, it's like nobody cares. The world just seems to have moved on. So I don't know whether next year we're even going to bother covering this. But I had to mention it. Anyway, that's they're basically getting pretty played out. The old BTC crowd, kind of a letdown to me. I mean, I don't expect them to be doing amazing, but just how empty the whole thing was really struck me.
For me, I'm just watching from the sidelines, mostly from Twitter. Some of it happens to be in my feed, and overall, I feel somehow sad that the Bitcoin brand is being brought into some kind of stagnation, and and what they seem to be like exciting developments going on related to Lightning or Fediment or whatever the Chaumian whatever they came up with. They're actually like trying to normalize or trying to tend towards centralization, custody of funds. And so, what are they innovating on? Like they're making it. I don't know. It's like they're building something so that people will be led towards custody of Bitcoin, and it's just so sad that they brought the branding with them during the split, and they're dragging it down. From my point of view, it's such a waste.
It is, but I have sort of an optimistic take on it, which is that even though, yeah, I agree, it's a complete nightmare, and a lot of people will sort of just follow that brand back into it. But I think a lot of people won't. I think they've spent so long saying, not your keys, not your coins, self-custody. We're trying to be like people still, even with digital gold, they still saying it was digital gold, but like money that you could trade, even if that's not the reality of what's going on. People, at least, it's in the name, Bitcoin, coins, things you can trade, right? As they've spread the brand and all that, cryptocurrency has grown. People, and I mean not even necessarily the people in crypto at all, just people who are very on the sidelines of any of this, they still understand the idea of, okay, it's supposed to be an alternative economy. So I think that message has got through. So even if Bitcoin kind of fades away, it's kind of a good spot for Bitcoin Cash to rise up. Like Bitcoin, I know Bitcoin Cash, it's an economy. I can use it like cash. I can kind of see us threading the needle there. So I'm actually optimistic. Although, yeah, it is a travesty to see. Makes you despair for the state of the world a little bit. Yeah. Okay, we got meme of the week. This one comes from Iron Man. I don't know if you're a fan of that, but it's the Jericho missiles scene where he says, "Why don't we have both?" So it's Robert Downey Jr. With the Bitcoin Cash tokens logo on his head, and it says in the meme impact text, "Is it better to have Bitcoin with low fees or Ethereum with proof of work? I say, is it too much to ask for both?" And then the missiles are exploding behind him, so it's kind of action based thing. And I think, to me, this is kind of what we can angle it at. And the general crypto population, people think Bitcoin, high fees, not such a good combo. And then Ethereum, proof of stake, a lot of people, they don't like that. So if we can sort of, it's not an exact analogy of what it is, but if we can kind of pitch cash tokens as that combo, I think a lot of people would resonate with it, right?
And it looks like Ethereum has all the bad combinations. It has high fees and it's POS.
Exactly. And they're getting into a bit of a mess too as well. Because on one hand, they've got all these ETH killers, which are not going to kill ETH because it already has too much network effect. But on the other hand, they're kind of stuck. I've also just chose this meme because it has the new Cash Tokens logo, which the community voted on, the green Bitcoin B, and then a blue ring around the outside which says Cash Tokens, and then it has a barcode which also says Cash Tokens. And there was the vote that we had, but there's nothing official about that. People don't have to listen to that vote. But it seems like the one that everybody liked, unsurprisingly, kind of won. And so I've seen a lot of people have already jumped on this. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be the logo in all the different apps and stuff, because it seems to, like, before the vote had finished, people were a bit unsure. But as soon as the vote was over, everybody's just been using this logo on all their memes, right? So I think, that's looking, I personally love it. I actually think it's great. It looks like a poker chip. It looks like a token that you would get at a casino or at any kind of, if you were at some of those food stalls and stuff, sometimes they're giving you like tokens. They look exactly like that. So I think it's actually perfect. All right, we got a message to the community. Everyone on the show gets a chance to speak to the listeners, the Bitcoin Cash community, whoever's tuning in, and tell them what they need to hear. So what do you think it is that the Bitcoin Cash community needs to have on their mind?
About Paytaca? Or about
anything. You can make it about
anything.
about Paytaca, about the political state of the world, about submarine, submarines, like whatever you think.
I think that what I'd like to share, the most important thing for me, the thing that really keeps us going. So these things are very difficult to pull off, the things that we are doing, and very difficult to see the success. Like it's like seeing in the horizon. You see the sunrise, but you don't get to see the details. For other people, like not being able to see details of your future is scary. It scares them. But for me, knowing that we are solving a very important problem, like a problem that impacts the future of billions in the planet, it gives me a feeling of being part of a bigger goal. It's I think that's one of the basic things that each human should strive for, like being part of something greater than you. And that's one of the things that I always try to share to my teammates, that the pleasure of doing something for something that's greater than each of us, or even greater than what we can do combined. It keeps you going, even when there are like moments when you doubt yourself, or moments of difficulty. It's really the vision that you need to internalize. And if you're aligned with that, and deep inside that we're gonna get there no matter what, we'll get through it. The difficulties that you encounter along the way, they become trivial. They become like source of lessons for you to keep going. And yeah, I say that to my team. Like we are not the most compensated developers in this area of the world. Even at our rate, so there are many people here who work for foreign companies. They get paid a lot of money. But part of the way I motivate the members of my team is that we sell this vision. Like, hey, this is the big goal we have, and that's amazing, right? To be part of a huge change in the world, if we can make it happen, and in a way that will not make us financially broke in the end. Just okay, or if you're super lucky, you will be like super rich as well. But more than that, more than the money, more than anything else, it's really accomplishing something that can potentially change the world, make the lives of people better. Yeah,
that's great message, and that's exactly what it comes down to. I mean, the Bitcoin Cash community has had to do it so rough for so long on the price front, and the vision is what has sustained it. And I think as that turns around, the price it's going to go up eventually. It's not a question of if, really, just a matter of when. Like we see with cash tokens, there's been so much development activity. Even just the things you've talked about on the show, you're just one after another, after another, after another. These projects. Jet was sharing me these stats before. Maybe we can pull that up. I don't know. Do you have that chart of our monthly listeners on the live stream on the Twitch, right? And I put it in the Telegram.
Yeah, I don't have it readily available for the live stream, but when I do the post, I'll add it in here. So
okay,
here are the stats.
But basically, from January until for the last year in 2022, it was just kind of going along at about 10 viewers per week or per month average on the streams. And then in December, it jumps up to about 30. And then in January of this year, it's down to 20. And then February is 25. And then March is 30. And then 45. So you can see that it's just been going along. And then you can see at the start of this year, it's just started rising. And there's a few factors to that. BChat has been huge in hosting our streams and stuff. But the snowball is starting to roll. And I can really feel this show gaining traction. So for everybody who's in the community, I'm sure in everybody's different projects, if Bitcoin Cash is rising, everybody will start to notice that everywhere, and the price will follow at some point, right? Okay, cool. Well, that will pretty much do it for the show. We've got to give our supporter appreciation and then finish off with the shout outs. So thank you very much to our donators every time. Love you. You're the best. Sats. Always love some BCH sats. Thank you to Ricky and HP, our patrons. Thank you to General Protocols. Check out bchbull.com, as you were saying on the show, getting some good utility out of their products. So they're making it happen there as well. And the Flipstarter supporters, Majumalo, Marcelo, Renegade, Cheap Lightning, Emergent Reasons, Unspent.app, Molecular, Bitcoin Cash, Orders, Mini Satoshi, and Callisti.cash. So final shout outs, and where can people find more of you at Paytaca and follow you as well?
I forgot to make a shout out for it's been in this like roller coaster ride with me for more than a year, and we'd love just learning a lot of things along the way.
I hate to cut you off, but my interrupt.
Oh yeah, it's a shout out for.
I want to make sure we.
Okay, yeah. It's a shout out for Bit Architect, my partner in developing the PurelyPeer project. So we've been at it, as mentioned, for more than a year. So we're learning a lot along the way, and finally we're getting it out, the beta this next month. And for Paytaca, you find us in Twitter, in Telegram. We have our website currently being developed. And I'd invite everybody to download Paytaca, try it out. Don't be afraid to reach out to us if you run into issues. We'd love feedback. We survive on feedback, and we really love to improve the product from there.
Absolutely. And that website is paytaca.com, right?
I was looking at it recently.
It's I looked at it before, and then I looked at it. You've been changing and improving that. I was like, wow, this is way slicker and cooler than it used to be. So the iterative improvement was going on. That caught me off guard because I remember the older website, and then I went to it, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it was quite boring before.
It's definitely engaging, and it's one of those things just in any project, right? If you look at it and then you come back 6 months later, and what to the team on the ground, you're just day by day improving incrementally. But then when you come back after a period of time from an outside perspective, you're like, wow, all this stuff hitting me at once, right? So I was definitely getting those vibes. Jet, do you have a shout out?
Yeah, I have a bunch of shout outs. Rarity for you.
Good. No, you've been lacking. You've got a few in the bank, so.
So I have to shout out I'm Uname, and I think it's Rihar from Stack Wallet for finally pushing me to look into Fulcrum. I have to give a shout out to Josh Ellithorpe, Tom Zander, Kalen Calianu. I'm so sorry.
Kalen Caliano.
Yeah. And Morin P from Block NG. I feel like there's someone I'm missing. I'm so sorry if that person is you. But yeah, a bunch of people have just helped me out with a bunch of small Bitcoin Cash stuff here and there over the past couple days, and it's made my life a hell of a lot easier. And I guess everyone that's worked on CashTokens. It's been smooth sailing so far. I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah, my shout out goes to Bitcoin Cash Orders and Mainnet Pat for collaborating with Paytaca on the Emerald DAO and all of that stuff, because I love that. That was amazing. It was so cool to have some apps and things to play around with to get started with. I'm very enamored of my little fiendish NFT that I have, and we'll wait and see at the end of the year. I've got two. I've minted two of them, so we'll see at the end of the year. Maybe I want to get two, so maybe I can unlock one, and maybe I'll keep one. And I wonder if they'll become a tradable thing that people will suddenly be like, well, there's 0.1 BCH in it, but it's kind of got a historical value, so maybe it could trade higher than that, or maybe not. Maybe I'll just hold on to it and watch as my 0.1 BCH goes to the moon.
I got to double up on that shout out because they also helped me. I now have the first and potentially most unique Emerald DAO tokens. I have a 0.2 BCH DAO token, and I have a 1 BCH DAO token.
How did you do that? Because when I was looking, I looked on the Block Explorer, and it's 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And there was one in there that was 0.2. I was like, what is this bug? Did you mint
yeah.
somehow?
So the contract has a equal to or greater than. It's not a strict equal. So if you can, hack around the numbers a little bit, you can put anything above 0.1 BCH in there.
Okay.
You don't get a reward
bonus,
proportional to your lockup.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for the reward, just get as many as you want. If you want, well, I mean, I got the first one, so take that, guys.
Wow. That's super cool, and I can't wait, because as well it's going to be so historic as well too, because by the time we're at the upgrade day next year, when they unlock, it will be a completely different experience. It'll be already in a bunch of wallets. It'll be super slick, integrated, maybe like some nice animations or something. You'll be able to send it everywhere. People will be minting all kinds of celebration tokens and something and it'll be easy, and the community will be popping off and loving it. And it will just be like, oh, remember back 1 year ago when this was all like such a stretch and we had to really work to make it happen. Time moves on quick, and everybody's been working hard. The dev channels have been so active with people going off chatting through all that. So you love to see it, really. All right, that will do it. Thank you for listening, everyone, and until next time.
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
And that is another thing that no one can ever teach you. Because you're going to have to learn that on your own. You're going to have to figure out how to pull that energy out of your mind on your own. There's no book you can read that all of a sudden I have it. I've got the technique now. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
No, it's a grind that you have to start and finish on your own.